Hey there, bestie. I'm Lori Me, your What to Read Next podcast host. Join me as we dive into exciting new reads that'll have you reaching for your TBR pile in no time. From urban mysteries to spicy romances, we'll explore it all and help you find your next favorite book. So grab a cup of tea, cozy it up, and let's discover some amazing reads together. Hi, May. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Hey, Laura. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My gosh, I am a Texas native and I live in Austin now, but I grew up in Deep East Texas in the woods, and that's like where I like to set most of my thrillers, even though this latest one, The Hollywood Assistant, is set in Los Angeles.
Yeah. So I live in Texas for summer and I live in Florida, so I know summers are not a great time to go visit just because of the weather.
Huh.
Texas is just like Austin is its own little, at least from my experience. I live in College Station, Texas, which is very anti-Austin, but I come from North. And so I was told that I probably will fit into Austin as much as possible, as opposed to any other part of Texas. Maybe Houston, maybe Dallas Fort Worth, but not College Station. That was very clear. Just
Sure.
but I think like Austin is like it's growing. It's definitely like I think it's people are moving since COVID times or even before COVID times. How does it live? How is it living in Texas now than it was, a couple like in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Austin since 92 when I came down for college, and
Yeah.
on and off, I've lived other places too, but mainly here, and it has just completely, the growth has exploded,
Yeah.
which is great. Like, there's more dining options. It's not just like, barbecue with but it's also, it's affordability of housing and stuff is a real issue here now. So that's challenging. But I still love it. It's still extremely green city. It's still got tons of parks and nature and outdoor stuff, which is super important for me and my family. I have a 11-year-old, very high-spirited little boy that has to be outside a lot. So
Yeah. I love this. Yeah, I consider moving to Texas at some point. I'm moving to Austin, but it was too far away. I needed to take multiple trips to go. My family lives in Puerto Rico, so I wanted
right.
to find a place that had direct flights. So I ended up in Tampa, which actually has a pretty quick jump around, but it's the same thing. It's affordability. Like it exploded. There's a lot of people moving in here. There's a lot of a lot of things are more expensive, than it like
Sure.
the advertised back in the day. You're like, "You can afford this in, like, $900." You're like, "Yeah, no, like, you can barely afford that."
Yeah, I know. No, it's really crazy, but Tampa must be so nice.
It is nice. It's actually, like, I I've been here for about 3 years, and I surprisingly now I find my way in it, and I like it, and I found my community. I think I need it. I live in the suburbs. I don't live in the major city hub, and it was a conscious choice because I was coming from New York City and Chicago, which were very urban, very city-like, and I needed something a little bit I wanted to slow down in this era of my life, and so choosing to live in Northeast Tampa was like a really I found myself in a really nice community. I don't have a car. I'm getting a car this summer. And so that's like a whole different level of like I've been a passenger princess using Ubers and Lyft just to get around. But it's definitely like a nice little comforting. I live away from the water, so I'm not by the part where the hurricanes will happen or evacuation zones, which is kind of
That's
like nice.
yeah, for sure. Totally. But then you're probably like what, like an hour from the beach or two
Yeah,
or how
I'm like 45 minutes from the beach. I think I'm 45 minutes from Clearwater, and then downtown I'm about 30 minutes from Tampa Bay. And then St. Pete's is probably like 45 minutes. I think St. Pete's is a fairly popular place where people move because it's kind of like a small town base, and there's much more walkable and much more fun and stuff like that. I have yet to visit St. Pete, but that's on the horizon for the summer to give it a try. But yeah, I do I travel regularly to Puerto Rico. because my job allows me to work every so often, so I do so that's where I'm like, I'm used to really nice beaches, and so sometimes like, Florida actually doesn't have ugly beaches, but I'm used to the up north, New York beaches are horrible beaches. So, I'm like, it is okay.
That's I love it. That's
Yeah.
nice.
So, all right. So let's talk about the Hollywood Assistant, which is a book set in LA and is set in the glamorous world of personal assistant, which is a job that 1,000 people want just to getting the foot in the door. But you hate that job. Like it's it is a thankless job, and you put your assistant through the ringer in this book. So, talk to us about what is the elevator pitch and why should readers pick it up?
So the elevator pitch is that the main character, my protagonist, Cassidy Foster, is recently heartbroken. She's like a struggling writer, wants to be a novelist, but can't get published. And so when her best friend, who's a little more glamorous, says, "I have a job for you, move to LA from Austin," she springs at the chance. So she moves and she starts working for this couple, and they're very like handsome, sexy, money. The husband's a director and the wife is an actress. And so she starts working as a personal assistant, and the pay is great and the perks are great. But then very soon she can tell that there's a lot more going on than meets the eye, and she gets sucked into their world, and there's obsession and infidelity and all the things that I like to write about.
Yeah, I feel like your books are like these juicy popcorn, fun, frothy thrillers. They're a good escape. Like they're just like the perfect beach read to read. Because they're not gory in a sense of like we're gonna go deep into the woods, but we're gonna go with the frothy, the real housewives, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
of drama. It's like the Bravo kind, which I love. Like that's the kind that I want to read, rich people behaving badly and, like, let's just put them through the ringer. It sounds great.
Thank you. I really enjoy writing about it. It's like personally my own escape, you
Yeah.
know?
So, let's talk about The Hunting Wives because it's coming for a Starz show, so that's another book of yours. So, talk to us about why we should pick it up now. Like, read the book.
Yeah, I would love for readers to read it before the show comes out because the show stuck really close to the spirit of it, but it's even more bonkers than the book. And the book has been described as like kind of like Big Little Lies, but with martinis and guns, and that's, from Gare Billings, the fabulous bookstagrammer, and I just love it. So I love that tagline because it's about a group of East Texas socialites, women who they shoot skeet in the woods, and they drink wine, and they gather, but they're also on the hunt for something more, and it's got a murder mystery and yeah, just lots of like sex drama, juiciness to it. And man, I've had so much fun writing that one.
Oh my god, it was so much fun reading it. Like, as a reader, it was just so much fun. It was like, "This is the kind of book that I need." Like, who'd have thought that housewives just shooting guns, just be like and going on these, like, excursions, like, "Oh, this is great."
Thank you. Thank you so
I'm like, it's like, I didn't realize this is something can happen. Like, you can do that. Like, I'm so used to like, they go into their Pilates or they're doing all this leisurely, but like, hey, we gotta just blow up some scenes too. Let's just shoot on some shit.
yeah, I really wanted to invert the whole boys club thing and let the women, behave badly. And I think I got a little carried away.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about like your writing process. Like, how do you get your ideas? Like, how do you figure out like what would be like something interesting? Like, what nugget of inspiration could lead you to that going down the rabbit hole?
Yeah. So for Hunting Wives or Hollywood Assistant.
It's up to you.
So for a Hollywood assistant, I actually about 20 years ago, I lived in Los Angeles and I worked as a personal assistant to a director and an actress, a
Yeah.
couple. And, after that initial sort of setup, there's nothing similar to them in the book because they were so lovely. It was like a sort of like a Cinderella story where I fell into this job and they treated me so well, like family, and we're still friends. And I love them dearly. And it was just so cool because much like Cassidy in the book, I did get transported to this world I kind of didn't know existed. Like I had been living
Yeah.
in Bay Area in this like tiny apartment, struggling grad student, eating like frozen pot pies for dinner.
Yeah.
and and then all of a sudden, like I wake up and wow, I'm at the coast and I'm going to five-star restaurants and wine and dine. And it was like a fairy tale. And I wanted to capture that aspect of that kind of like stepping into a new world, and I was very green, like, I'm not like the jaded person I am now
Yeah.
today. 50, I was, early 20s, mid-20s. I'm bad at math, and it was just, like, very enchanting to me to be a part of that and to, get hand-me-down clothes from someone whose closet is a lot more swoon-worthy than mine, and it was cool. So that was kind of the inspiration, but of course, in my novels, like, okay, I set out to write. I wanted to do something a little different with this one where it's more like Hitchcockian slash erotic thriller. I love erotic thrillers from the 80s and 90s, like Fatal Attraction. So I kind of wanted to do like a love letter to those, but have it be more from the female gaze.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that was sort of like the story, the inspiration behind the Hollywood Assistant.
I love this. I love the fact you're like, you took a pleasant experience, you're like, let's just thrillify. Let's just
I
let's
love
just
that.
make it a little bit more like let's just make it a little more darker than this.
Murder and sex.
Murder,
Yeah,
crime, fatal
exactly.
attraction. Like just make it.
I love that vilify. I'm gonna have to steal that verb.
Yeah, let's just take it, you know. So, and you mentioned that you read, like, you do read some crime reads. Like, what kind of like, what's your crime read of choice? Do you? I personally love, and here's my take on. I personally love white collar crime. I am all about financial crime, scams, and all the things. I'm also work as an investigator investigating white collar crime. So so I do have the ideal job for that, and that's probably
My
why I
God,
love
that's
it.
amazing.
But I know there's murder, there's like, rich people behaving badly and all the different things. So what's your crime of choice that you're indulge yourself?
It's kind of funny. Like, I really read more crime fiction than like true crime. I
Yeah.
don't really listen to true crime podcasts and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's I see the appeal. And when I was in high school, like, I loved books like Zodiac and the Lizzie Borden book, and I
Yeah.
liked that stuff, and I liked watching Dateline and things like that, but now I don't know if it's because I have a kid or just, like, the world is just crazy enough that so I'd have to read the fictional version.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I don't really do too much, I mean, yes, I think it's always interesting when, a headline pops up and you're like, all right, it's definitely the husband that did it. Like that's always like, are we really gonna walk around the park and then figure this out? Like we already know, that that's what
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
I love this. All right. So let's try some book recommendations. What kind of books do you recommend our listeners to pick up?
Okay, I don't just read thrillers, but one of my favorite ones is The Likeness by Tana French.
Mhm.
It's probably my favorite one of hers. I love that it's sort of got like a group of like college age friends, and they're at this like manor in Ireland in the countryside, and it's got like a doppelganger thing where and I'm not giving any of this away, but just real quick, she basically there's like one of them, goes missing or dies, and then there's a present day like police investigator, and she looks just like the victim enough to where she can actually so I guess she's missing. She comes back to this group of friends and she has to pretend like she's her to try to figure out what happened. And it's so tense. And awesome. I love it. And then let's see, is this where I give like the 5?
You
books.
can give a couple, you don't need to give them all, so it's up to you what you wanna give.
Okay, and I love my favorite book of all time is The Hummingbird's Daughter by Luis Alberto Urrea. I just find every time I pick that book up and reread it, it's like entering a dream. Yeah, and then I have to give a shout out to Amanda Airward's debut called Sleep Toward Heaven. It's not crime fiction per se, but it does I would say it borderlines on it, and I don't know too many authors that write different POVs as well as she does, and the ending every time I wanna try to nail an ending in my own books, I'll pick that book up and reread it, and it always makes me gasp.
Love this. I love when that happens. It's like, it's a maze of the reader is, like, having that experience, like, what it feels like outer body experience, like,
Yeah,
holy
yeah,
crap.
yeah, totally.
So, May, tell us where you can find you online.
Okay, my website is www.maycobb.com, but I'm mainly on Instagram, and it's May, MAY underscore Cobb, COBB.
Thank you, May, for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I had a blast.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of the What to Read Next podcast. If you enjoy our bookish conversations and want more recommendations, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, head on over to the What to Read Next blog for a list of books mentioned in today's show. Happy reading!